and the legal cannabis sector rise after its setbacks? Today we're speaking with Jeppe Krog Rasmussen, who's CEO and founder of the Danish company Dancann Pharma that's on its way to spotlight stock market. Welcome, Jeppe.
Hi, Johan. Thanks for having me.
What medical need does Dancann Pharma address?
At Dancann Pharma, we make and distribute pharmaceuticals within the prescription and as well the OTC sector. In the beginning, mainly focused on the patient groups, which is covered by the Danish pilot program with medical cannabis, which is highly, focused on pain treatment, but also with future targets in terms of new segments and as well patient groups in the future.
Mm-hmm. And how are you going to provide help for these patients?
As a company, we provide help for these patients, for those who have not benefited from the conventional medication. We exist to make a difference for the many patients who have good experiences with pharmaceutical like ours based on cannabis and as well cannabinoids, but lack the access to treatment. And for the same reason, we highly believe innovation about improved health and increased life quality for those patients with these challenges, definitely.
Yeah. You focus on several parts of the cannabis value chain. Is it realistic to be good at that many parts?
I think when we're talking the value chain and the full value chain, or more or less, it's aim for us for a stable supply as the regulations is currently. So far, this has been a need in terms of actually getting products launched to the market for a Danish company due to the regulations and legal framework in Denmark. Unless we didn't have this, we will be highly depending on another cultivator, which so far due to date doesn't exist. I also think that it's important to state that we play within such a dynamic field. No one can really predict the future, and many things can really change fast. And for the same reason, most of our business is built on a so-called proof of concept basis. In our industry, it is highly about to be prepared for change almost from day to day. Things can change very quickly, and now especially with a new review of the pilot program just around the corner.
Okay. How will you position your products against competitors?
When we look at the supply chain management, we see more or less that all of our competitors solely bet their money big time on the cultivation part and highly are focused on the major components in the plant called THC and CBD, which for us to see is more likely a future commodity and solely a race about, you can call the volume price targeting. We do as well also question the massive volumes our competitors often talk about or trying to achieve, and especially where to distribute those. For us as a company to see the volume is, the money is not in the volume, but in the differentiation, the security of supply, and as well the main next steps within the value chain, where you can really get some IP, IPR, being a pharmaceutical company. So rather than just have so-called no-brainer oils or flour on the market, we look into how we can really create and protect a unique position with some solid margins. We see two ways of achieve this, which is mainly based by looking at the differentiated formulations by novel cannabinoids, and as well also trying to look into innovative delivery systems as well, and also see a huge gap and potential in connecting the dots between and the synergies between the well-established pharma industry and this new booming cannabinoid field we play within. So you can say a lot of focus on a strategic partnership as well.
All right. You haven't received all the necessary clearance under the Danish cannabis test program yet. What is the outlook for that?
And for the same reason we do our IPO, it's basically based on three legs of a business, which is the import and distribution part, the cultivation of bulk, which is the big quantities of raw materials, and then we have the last one, which is the intermediate manufacturing. So we expect to have our facility for the import and distribution ready during this year and hopefully approved by start next. Then we have our cultivation part facility as well to be finished within this year, hopefully, and ready for operation and start next. and expected to be approved by the Danish Medicine Agency during end 21. And thirdly, we have the part about the intermediate manufacturing, which is the finished and ready preparations for the pharmacies and hospitals, and we expect that to be up and running and approved during 21-22. So yeah, you can say the IPO is intended to raise the necessary capital to meet the goals we have set for our company, which is to obtain the necessary approvals with regard to the licenses I just mentioned before, and as well to integrate to our short and middle term targets, which is the Danish and Scandinavian market.
Cannabis is a bit of a controversial substance after all. How has this medical test program for cannabis in Denmark been viewed by the public, the authorities, politicians, and so on?
It's a really tough question to answer depending on who you ask, I think, Johan. In general, it has not been optimal, to be honest. And for the same reason, this upcoming review, as I mentioned before, is very interesting. It can really change a lot, especially for us to see for the big players who have placed massive bets on the cultivation part. I think it will undoubtedly be extended, but the really interesting part about this is the change that will be made within the legal framework. But to make it short, for me to see room for improvement, definitely.
Cannabis companies are not as hot stocks as they used to be. There has, on the other hand, been some more opening in American states, for example, legalizing cannabis. How do you view the outlook for the sector?
It's totally correct. I would say not as hot as they used to be, even though I think that the cannabis-related stocks are doing a great job these days. I think it's quite essential to see the difference between the recreational market and the medical market for cannabis and cannabinoids. But of course, all good news in terms of cannabis is good news for companies such as ours. When we talk about the sectors potentially, and here I mean the medical part, which within we work, we see a huge unreleased potential, especially on our first target, which is the Danish domestic market, where we look into approximately a plus 2 billion market based on the patient groups covered by the pilot program. In general, I would also like to say that most of our large competitors, large companies within the industry are looking at major, more mature markets as Germany in Europe, where the really attractive part of it is all the patient sites. Instead, we're trying to differentiate ourselves and think differently, not only when we talk about product development, but also when we talk about go-to-market strategies. So what I'm trying to say is that we have some markets in mind that our competitors don't even think about, so to speak.
All right. Will there be side effect risks of using your products?
If we go with the data-based version, I can say that last year the Danish Medicine Agency received a total, I think, about 60 approx reports of suspected effects, reactions regarding the cannabis products covered by the pilot program, and this is out of plus 5,000 prescriptions, which is approx, I think it's 1% or something. And if we look at the so-called serious side effects, this counts for, to my best understand, 7 reports, which is approximately 0.0 something percent. So due to the stats and information from side effects from last year, we see that there is so far almost non-existing risk with the medicines. But once again, nothing is for sure. But if we compare to conventional medicines, there is so far absolutely nothing to be afraid of. Though I also think it's very important to state that the medicine for the Danish pilot program is so-called non-approved pharmaceuticals and should be seen as a second option to those who have not benefited from the conventional medicine.
Are institutional investors interested in investing in the cannabis sector, you think?
I think for the recreational part, which is more mature and a bigger market so far, definitely. In terms of our business, which I would say not a major trend yet. I think this part will develop real fast over the next few years. But for now, I think the industry yet is too young, especially this one we work within with the medical cannabis, and especially in Europe. But time will show.
All right. You plan to have your first sales from imported products during the first half of next year, and your first own-produced product sales in Q4. What do you see as the main hurdles on your journey?
I would say, first of all, I think we must have respect for that we work within the industry of pharmaceuticals, and the entry barriers are incredibly high. I will not call it hurdles, but more like uncertainties. I think we can put it into three boxes. First of all, the development of the pilot program, and highly depending on the regulatory conditions, this so-called legal framework. Although it seems quite unrealistic that it should develop in a negative way for a company like ours, I also think we can see it as well as a huge opportunity for us compared to some of our big cultivation competitors, which is highly focused on this part solely. In addition, also, I think that there is always what can you say, high risk with companies working within the pharmaceutical and the biotech industry, and the same for our company. So we are very allowed to. We will have to get these approvals from the Danish Medicines Agency, and as well there is a chance. Of course, through the last many years of preparation, done everything to ensure that this does not stand in the way for us to obtain these, and we as well also have some solid buffers within our pipeline and timeline. Some solid buffers within our pipeline and timeline. Thirdly, and the last part, I would say it should also be considered that we are competing in a field where there's big players within. And for the same reason, we as a company also need to think out the box. And I also certainly think that we do this, as also stated quite clearly in this interview, I think so. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jeppe, for being with us, and good luck.
Once again, thank you for having me. Such a pleasure.